botch his name there, but no, yeah, like saw like that movie this past week on there, and it was pretty amazing. So props to Maverick Carter and LeBron James for producing like such a great movie. Adam Sandler, great, kind of like great in terms of like in a kind of a dramatic role, if you will, with Queen Latifah as his wife too. So it's a very much like, oh yeah, like all these people are in this movie, and it's like, oh, that's because LeBron produced it, Maverick Carter, like these guys are the top of the food chain, with regards to the NBA, and then also obviously now Hollywood. So I think it was a pretty awesome movie. Had a lot of the Philadelphia 76ers on there, since Adam Sandler is kind of like a scout / coach for the 76ers, and he's out there to try to find like this the next great talent, and then sees Juancho Gomez is like him in Spain is like, oh, you need to bring him over to America. Sees like he's this great potential talent and everything that just hasn't been found yet. So no, it's definitely cliche and cheesy and all that, but it got me thinking about like, hey, it's stuck to the formula of what a good sports movie is. Kind of like the underdog working hard to overcome adversity and then having some form of success, right? So but yeah, it got me thinking of like, what are some of the top sports movies out there? So with all that, I'm like, I'd be interested to hear like, what are some of your favorite sports movies out there?
Yeah, so before I dive into that, I actually watched Hustle too.
Okay.
I had a slightly different take about the movie itself, but I will say that when I go back and I think about my favorite sports movies of all time, I watched majority of those movies when I was in my teen years or before, so maybe youth years as well. What I would say is I think Hustle, if I was like in middle school, in high school, or even earlier, I probably would have a different take than I do today, but it's only because I feel like I was just trying to draw connections with like some of the characters and maybe like how they tried to portray this movie. I mean, I feel like it is rated R if I'm right on that. I want to say it was rated. Correct me if I'm wrong. If it's not rated R, then I'll change my tune a little bit.
I think there's some swearings.
Yeah. I guess like I wanted a little bit more story development. I wanted like I didn't feel it as much. I wasn't as captivated to the Juancho Hernangomez character. I think his name was Bo Cruz, which is just like the most ridiculous name for a kid from Spain. Like, I don't know anybody from Spanish culture that's named Bo. I mean, again, if your name is Bo and you are from Spain, please comment and message on our board, because I'd love to know that. But I mean, that kind of got me like laughing off the bat. But
I was gonna say, interrupt you there with regards to Anthony Edward. His character's player was Kermit Willis. So like,
yeah, so we had Bo versus Kermit in the big showdown, and the showdown ends, with Bo Cruz like slapping the floor on Kermit's head. Like, Kermit wouldn't get up and start throwing hands, like, please. But I guess it's just like, I don't want to spoil the whole movie or anything like that if people are about to watch or something like that. But I guess like, we go to like the Adam Sandler character and, his conflict with the Philadelphia 76ers owner's son, who's like the heir to the throne. It's just like, I wanted a little bit more. Like, I wanted a little bit more context as like why there's some beef there. It felt like very surface level. And it was just like so cutthroat and like cruel that I was like, this is very cruel to like your best scout, number one. And then I was thinking, like, why is Adam Sandler like Queen Latifah and Adam Sandler never kissed in the entire movie? There was one scene where she kisses him lightly on the cheek or the forehead or something, and I was just like there's no love in that relationship. There was no backstory as to like why they're together. There's just like, I just felt like there's some holes in the story. That's all I'll say, at least from my perspective. But do you want NBA like type action? Like, it's got it. Do you want to know what it feels like to be at the combine? For sure has that. A scout's life maybe on the road and understanding like the international context of scouting, like, knocked it out of the park. I thought that there were like some really good elements of this movie and like the in-game basketball action that make the movie fun to watch. And you're rooting for, Adam Sandler as the scout, and you're rooting for, Bo Cruz as the player. I guess there's just like, there is another movie I could compare it to somewhat. And it just, I felt like the movie I'm going to compare it to just does a little bit more for me. But do you have any reaction to that? Did I just like go overboard and like, not give it an accurate take, or, did you want to rebut with anything?
No, yeah. I think for me, it's like my expectations for sports movies and Hollywood. It is funny you mentioned the whole Queen Latifah too, not kissing, Adam Sandler. It definitely is like that whole idea of like, I feel like two actors have been in the game for that long, right? It's like, are they gonna do it? Because I was like, are they gonna do it? I think they were just rubbing feet. I think there was that one scene where he's just rubbing her feet. Like, I think that was it in terms of like affection, that little kiss in the cheek. So it's like, okay, they're not gonna. You see that too with like young Hollywood too. It's like, yeah, they might not be as, it's like she's barely 18 or whatever, like, crazy stuff like that, right? It's like, we're not gonna push that far. So I'm used to kind of seeing that as a movie lover. But I will say I do like your take with regards to at least the NBA or the basketball scenes, because I think Twitter went crazy, and I was noticing this. Twitter went crazy with this with Anthony Edwards and kind of like his antagonists, and he was like, this guy's not even acting, like this is how he is normally. But it was pretty funny though, is that Juancho Hernangomez, like he was actually his teammate in the Timberwolves for about a season, so they're familiar with each other. But I think everybody appreciated the trash talking scenes that Edwards did. I know I did for sure. But yeah, sports movies are going to be cliche. The writing can be dry. It follows a formula. There's definitely a lot of holes and kind of like, I don't know what's the term, but yeah, like movie holes in there for sure with regards to like the story and how it flowed. The writing might have been a little bit not precise with regards to actually, it's definitely not an Oscar-winning movie or Oscar-winning screenplay, at least I would say. But it does the job for me with regards to, this is a sports movie. This is what you expect. Glad that they brought a bunch of people to do cameos on there. They got my boy Matisse Thybulle there too, so happy to see him there and all too. But yeah, for me it was an overall good sports movie. With all that being said, but I do love Bo Cruz and Kermit Witz. Those are the craziest names for those are like antagonists for like my player, my career in NBA 2K. I feel like I think that was like the overall take on it. I was like, this is basically just a nice version of an NBA 2K my career storyline. Like it kind of was. So yeah.
And like, what was the deal with Adam Sandler's hand? Like the whole movie, like he's like casted up. He's like, and my hand's like Swiss cheese or something. Like, and then he tells the story. It just like
it didn't land correctly. Yeah, that one didn't land.
Yeah, so like with that, like why not show like a flashback? Like just have like a dramatic flashback, because this movie is rated R. I just looked at it as rated R. I was like, I don't know, man. It was kind of like towing between PG and rated R. I was just like, pick a side.
Editing. There might have been some editing. It was like about 2 hours, right? Which I know like that's good, but yeah.
I just felt like it was like I think they were trying to bite off too much they can chew from a storytelling perspective, but I think that they landed on the basketball, like the feeling of true NBA basketball. I feel like was portrayed very well in this movie. Like you felt like you were actually in an NBA locker room or boardroom or on the court itself. Like it was well done from that perspective. And trust me, I've gone back and watched some sports movies that I absolutely loved as a kid, and some just don't come off the same way anymore. Like I'll very shortly say Major League is in a group of some of my favorite movies, but it is funny that like you watch Major League back again and you find out you're rooting for a protagonist that like basically cheated on his fiance and then like is basically working to like screw over the good fiance who hasn't messed up anything, has treated her really well, is like wined and dined her and treated her like the lady she deserves to be. And like this whole time it's just like he also like screwed around with multiple women while being with this woman, and never read her favorite book until like, he finally like gets her back at the end and like recites one line from Moby Dick, and it's just like this huge hero. And it's just like, I don't know, like I watched some of these things back and I'm like, yeah, like my brain wasn't fully developed when I was 12. Like I thought this guy was the coolest guy ever. And now it's like, I have second thoughts, but yeah, I mean, I know what you mean when you say that about sports movies. Cause it's like, it's got to just hit a couple notes for you as a sports fan. You're like, all right, that was like, it was a great sports movie,
I'm sure your wife appreciates your take on Major League there,
No, but it's funny because even on my like men's league baseball team, we had like 3 guys. We were like all, I guess we all are married or whatever, and 2 of us have kids or something. But we were all like kind of like talking about just how some of this stuff really doesn't age well. Like some of the humor and some of the like the racial connotations in these movies, like, all seriousness aside, like some stuff just doesn't age that well.